Okay, so you have a draft of your synthesis essay and you are ready to revise. Use the revision points that follow as a step-by-step guide to help facilitate that revision. The first thing that you'll want to focus on is introductions and conclusions. This is not something we spent a ton of time on this year, so you can use this uh, funnel introduction format if you need a structure to help you write your revision. In a funnel introduction, you start broad and you move narrow. So for example, here you'll start with an engaging, informative title. You'll get a bit more specific with a hook. Think about your topic. Which hook is going to make most sense? Would a statistic be the most hooking feature of your topic? A quotation, perhaps from an expert or someone who's experienced the injustice themselves? Maybe a descriptive moment. Take the reader to a descriptive moment of the injustice, some kind of intriguing idea or concept that's going to get them thinking. So consider which hook works best for your topic and use that as a broad way into it. You're going to then transition from hook to topic, give some context or overview, just spend a couple sentences telling us what we need to know about this issue before you delve into it, and then end by stating your thesis. So for example, the title, Current Response to Boko Haram, Fueling the Terror. It's catchy, it's informative, and it keeps us wanting to read more. This particular essay chooses a quote as a hook. So John Mortimer articulates in When There's a Will, a war against terrorism is an impractical conception if it means fighting terrorism with terrorism. So this is an expert quote. It introduces an interesting topic. And notice this transition from quote to topic. This idea of resolving the issue through violence has been proven ineffective in the attempts to physically suppress Boko Haram. So this idea of resolving issue through violence is a way to speak to the hook and then move into the specific topic, in this case, Boko Haram. Then this author gives a few sentence overview of Boko Haram, which you can read if you'd like to, and then they kind of use that topic to build toward the thesis. The domestic and international responses aimed to suppress Boko Haram have been largely unsuccessful as they have backfired and unknowingly allowed for the subsistence of terror. So this is just a nice, quick way into your essay, starting broad and moving narrow. So go ahead and pause the screencast. You can use this color coding system if you'd like to highlight the features of your introduction and see if there's anything missing. Similarly, in your conclusion, you're going to start narrow because that's where you've left off in the body of your essay in your narrow focus, and you're going to use that narrow focus to funnel back out broad. So restate your thesis, quickly summarize your supporting reasons, and then build toward a broad final thought or conclusion to leave your reader thinking. So again, kind of restate your claim, give an overview of your supporting reasons, and here the reader builds out to this broad final thought. In order to effectively dismantle Boko Haram, it must be severed from its roots rather than from an external suppression. So this kind of the driving thought that the reader wants to leave you with. It's not specifically a restatement of your thesis, but it's sort of the broader implication that the reader needs as they exit your essay. So again, going from narrow to broad is a nice way to conclude. So go ahead and pause the screencast, take a look at your conclusion. It doesn't need to be more than maybe 4 or 5 sentences, but use those to kind of effectively wrap up your essay. All right, issue number 2. This is a biggie and it's going to have a big impact on your grade. So let's take our time to walk through it. This is development. Hopefully by now we're in pretty good shape since we wrote an outline and got feedback on it, but let's just make sure we feel really good about it. You're going to start with your claim or your thesis stated at the end of your introduction. You're going to make sure that both topic sentences, maybe 2 or 3, explicitly connect back to your claim. So in this essay, the claim again was the domestic and international responses aimed to suppress Boko Haram have been largely unsuccessful as they have backfired and unknowingly allowed for the subsistence of terror. Topic sentence number 1. The effort to combat Boko Haram within Nigeria have been reliant on forces and thus have promoted the continuation of terror. So notice this kind of argument about the continuation of terror is explicitly connected to in the topic sentence. There's no confusing how that supports the claim. Similarly, with your evidence, you should be consistently making this connection back to your topic sentence. Remember, the topic sentence is kind of like your individual paragraph's claim. So everything that you prove with your evidence needs to be connected back to this topic sentence. So in this paragraph, have promoted the continuation of terror. You can see the government has created disconnect. The government was unable to take action against its true enemies, instead endangering the lives of citizens. Nigerians, to oppose the government, become unwilling to work with the government against Boko Haram. So everything comes back to this inability of the government to end the issue and instead it kind of promoting terror. Notice there's no confusion that the reasoning is constantly tied to the topic sentence. So pause the screencast and take some time to go back through your essay. First, look at your topic sentences. Do they explicitly and clearly connect back to your claim? And then look back at your reasoning. Are you clearly and explicitly making that connection back to topic sentence again and again and again throughout your paragraph so that there be no confusion as to how it's developing your topic sentence? All right, the next issue is synthesizing sources. Again, this is a pretty major factor in your grades. Let's take our time and make sure we have very strong synthesis in our multi-source synthesis paragraphs. So this is an example of evidence overkill. If you were to highlight the information in your paragraph that is evidence, whether quoted or paraphrased, you should not have a majority of your paragraph highlighted. This is all evidence. All you've done is presented the facts and you've done nothing to engage with it. Instead, we want to present a balance of evidence and reasoning. So there's a balance of the researched information and our own ideas. So look at this, the way that this paragraph breaks down. The red again was our evidence, but the nice healthy balance between evidence and then inserted ideas from the writer, concluding with a nice synthesis. So here's evidence, and then the writer attempts to stop and engage with the evidence to provide some rationale. So here it was just evidence to evidence, but now we have evidence and reasoning, and the author is really trying to connect the evidence back to their argument. At the end, in between evidence, you'll notice these bolded transitions. So the writer is making an effort to transition from one piece of evidence to the next. For the first time, the country took a real step toward progress. This progress was furthered when, so there's this really clear effort to transition from one piece of evidence to the next and to build a connection. Up here it was not until February 2012 that Bangladesh actually had a clear law. So it was kind of bridging from the previous event, moving into the next. So there's this constant effort to bridge together, to have these nice transitions or connections, culminating with this final synthesis. So after I have evidence, reasoning, connected with these great transitions, I have this kind of final synthesized sentence or two at the end of the paragraph. This example of Bangladesh's history shows great strides toward the successful prevention of human trafficking thanks to both government, which was discussed here, and private, which was discussed on here, organization. So it gives us overview, kind of sweeping together all of the information presented in that paragraph. So you'll notice that if I highlight my paragraph, which maybe you want to go ahead and do for your paragraphs, highlight your evidence in one color, your reasoning in the other, see if you can bold transitions or connections between sources, and then do the third color. Do you actually have some moments where you're now trying to kind of offer a synthesized conclusion that strings together all the information from all the different sources? If so, your paragraph should look something like this, as opposed to this kind of evidence overkill paragraph. So pause the screencast, do some highlighting, see if in fact you are incorporating all the necessary pieces of an A-quality synthesis. All right, issue number 4 is concision, and this is going to be an important focus point for this essay because you're going to be cut off at 3 pages. Part of that is going to be choosing the best evidence and making sure that you've only presented the highest quality evidence. You may have more evidence that relates, but you're going to force yourself to streamline and choose only the very best to stay within that 3-page limit. But part of it is going to be concision. You need to write concisely and choose every word purposely, make every single word count. So we're going to borrow Owl Purdue's overview of concision. They give us 3 techniques to cure wordiness. Number 1, replace several vague words with one more specific or powerful word. So here's a sentence. Our website has many of the things you can use for making a decision on the best dentist. Has made available. So you can see, has made available, many of the things you can use for making a decision on. Look at all those unnecessary words, all those empty words like has, many, of the, can, use, for, a, on, all these prepositions, all these articles, they just kind of water down the language. Instead, find a more precise word to capture that meaning. So we can make that more concise by saying, our website presents criteria for determining the best dentist. Has made available becomes presents. Many of the things you can use is really a definition for criteria. For making a decision on is simply for determining. So we've taken all these empty words out and we've simply chosen a more powerful, specific word that conveys the same meaning. Notice we haven't lost any of the meaning, but we've just expressed it more concisely. Technique number 2, examine every word or sentence. Does it serve a purpose? Is it redundant or unnecessary? When you're only given 3 pages to present a topic like this, every word has to count. So for example, the teacher demonstrated some of the various ways and methods for cutting words for an essay that I had written for class. Well, a lot of this is unnecessary and redundant. Some of the various ways and methods, that doesn't really convey anything additional. It's sort of like empty, loaded language that you are writing, but it doesn't really pack a punch. It doesn't need to be in there. That I had written for class, well, that's pretty obvious. If my teacher's asking me to cut those words out for an essay, it's probably one that I've written for class. So it's kind of obvious and implied. So instead, the teacher demonstrated methods for cutting words from my essay. there's really nothing lost here. I still have the same meaning applied, but I've been able to cut out these words that don't really serve any purpose, that are kind of redundant and unnecessary. Number 3 is to combine sentences. This is an easy way to cut out some language because I don't have to repeat things like pronouns and verbs, because I can kind of combine and make those, take advantage of a compound sentence or some other sort of combined sentences. For example, the supposed crash of UFO in Roswell, New Mexico aroused interest in extraterrestrial life, period, new sentence. This crash is rumored to have occurred in 1947. All right, well, why not take this information that the crash is rumored to have occurred in 1947 and simply integrate that in the previous paragraph? So the supposed 1947 crash, I've taken the information, is rumored to have occurred in 1947. I've taken that and I've simply integrated it into the beginning of the previous sentence. There's nothing that I've lost. Supposed implies that it was rumored to have occurred, so I really don't need to say that. And now I just put the date in there, so I've got the information that I need. Now I can just say the supposed 1947 crash and then complete the sentence as I originally did. Notice that second sentence really only had one bit of new information, and that was the year. So I just took that and I got rid of the rest of it. All right, so replace vague words with more specific, powerful words. Examine every word in sentence and cut out anything that's redundant or unnecessary, and then just combine sentences. Read through your essay. Read it out loud, quietly, whisper to yourself, and hear, when am I being wordy? When am I using language that actually isn't conveying anything important? And use these strategies to cut down your wordiness. All right, number 5 is MLA citations and works cited. So this is just kind of a spot check at this point, but you need to make sure that all research, whether it's quoted or paraphrased, is cited. It's plagiarism if you've borrowed ideas, put it in your own language, and don't cite it. Whether you're quoting or paraphrasing, you have to include a citation. The Z-in-Text citation use the first entry, whether it's the last name, the title of the source, etc., from the work cited. So when you made your work cited, whatever that first entry is, such as Forrest, Massa, or Abbasi down here, that's going to be included in your in-text citation. And include pagination where possible. Don't invent pagination, but if it's possible to include it like a page number, then include it. Otherwise, don't put pagination in. Works cited, look at the formatting. Is it alphabetized? Does it have a hanging indent? Notice how the second line here goes down, so it's indented from the top. Does it have a works cited at the top? All it needs to say at the top is works cited. Is it evenly double spaced in 12-point font? Notice there's no extra spacing anywhere. It's just a title, works cited in 12-point font, no underline, and you just continue with double spacing consistently through, no extra spacing between. So look at your in-text citation. Is it punctuated and formatted correctly with the first word or entry from your works cited? And then look at your works cited. Is it formatted and does it look exactly like this? So do a spot check there. And the final thing is titles. You are being evaluated on your ability to format and capitalize titles correctly, since we just learned this skill. So remember, shorter works take quotations, longer works are italicized, which include the magazines or the source themselves. And then here are the rules for capitalization once again that we've learned. So spot check all of your titles. You may have mentioned a title within your essay, within an in-text citation, or in your works cited, and all of those need to be capitalized and formatted correctly. That will be part of your grade. So please make sure in all of those places you're not losing silly points for incorrect format or incorrect capitalization. So there you have it. Those are some of the areas that are going to help you do very well in this essay. Please note that I did send out a rubric in Google Classroom, so you can take a look at that rubric for the essay coming in on Monday to know exactly what you need to do to get that A that we're all shooting for. All right, happy revising.